I'm going to start by having the panel introduce themselves, and we're really fortunate to have Joan Bishop with us. So, Joan.
I'd first like to thank everyone so much for coming. I really appreciate your willingness to be here and watching the movie. I'm Linda's sister.
Hi, I'm Maggie Pritchard. I work at a community mental health center in Laconia, and I've been working in the New Hampshire mental health system for the last 35 years.
Hi there, my name is Shelley Lathrop. I'm an LICSW, so a social worker here in the state of New Hampshire. I've got over 20 years experience in social work, but pivotably for this presentation, I have a brother who was diagnosed with schizophrenia when he was 18 years old. So I'm the sister of a sibling with an illness.
Good evening. My name is John Broderick. I've known Joan Bishop for a long time. I'm here tonight not as a former judge or chief justice, but as a parent of a child who had mental illness, which I didn't see or understand. And it took my family to some hard places. And so you can't watch that film and not think that that person has been failed, not just by the system, but in a funny way by all of us over a long time. Anyway, that's why I'm here now.
And I'm Ken Norton. I'm the Executive Director of NAMI, New Hampshire. I'll be your facilitator. I'm also a family member who has had family members who have been incarcerated, homeless, institutionalized as a result of mental illness. And on a personal note, I would also say that I commute a lot to Concord by bike, and I would go within 25 yards of the house where Linda Bishop was during my commute. If I wasn't commuting by bike, I was going by on the highway. Joan, you've been through quite an experience as a family member, and you've taken this film across the country. Wondering if you can start us off by giving us some perspective of what you've learned from across the country, and then before I turn it over to the audience, I'll give a little bit of historical context for New Hampshire, and then we'll hear from you.
This film, as Ken said, has been shown all over the country, which has been a great experience. The producers were very anxious and interested in allowing Linda's story to be told in this beautiful, artistic way. And I think they did an extraordinary job in the way that they accurately told what happened to her, and also to hear her voice. She kept these journals as she was in this house in Concord. Every day she wrote in these journals, and to have her voice heard, I think, is significant. The reaction to the film has been overwhelmingly positive, and clearly it just raises so many questions and on so many levels about our system and about how we treat and how we try to help people with mental illness. There's the question of voluntarily taking medication. There's the question of just leaving a hospital with no backup plan. There's so many issues on so many levels that this film raises. So I hope that there can be a dialogue here tonight and at other places where this film is shown to try to reach the right people so that policies and laws are changed for the betterment of all of us, including family members and people with mental illness.
Great. So one of the things that, and I've had the good fortune to facilitate the screening of this film twice and to be on the panel once, and I think one of the questions that often comes up is anything different now. And so I'll just start by sort of giving a brief historical context, which is to say that in 1957, when the census at the state hospital hit its peak, we were 750,000 people in our state, and the census at the hospital was 2,700 adults. Now, 50 years later, our population is 1.3 million. Can anybody tell me what the census at the hospital is? Anybody know? Yes?
0, isn't it closed?
No, it's still there.
150.
Close.
168.
168. Thank you, John. So that includes 24 children, and so that sort of gives a little bit of a perspective about how things have changed in the mental health system. Obviously, a number of people with mental illness end up being incarcerated. But the other point that I want to sort of bring forward is that during that time, between those times, in the early 1990s, we were rated as #1 in the country for our mental health services. And I'll say that at that time, our NAMI founder, NAMI New Hampshire, Penny Straw, was quoted in the press as saying, "Great, we're the smartest kids in the dumb class." And it was said not without some pride about what we were able to do in New Hampshire relative to community-based services, but saying that if this is the best we can do in the country, then for people with mental illness, then that's a sad state. Today, we are under a federal class action lawsuit, the mental health system, and under a settlement agreement for that. This afternoon at 4 o'clock, there were 37 adults in emergency departments around our state waiting for inpatient admission, and another 6 people in our jails waiting for admission for an inpatient bed, and 3 children. And that's been about what the average has been for quite some time. There's probably an equal number or greater number of people that are at New Hampshire Hospital that the hospital has determined are ready to leave, but there's no place for them to go. So there's a front door and a back door problem. And there's oftentimes significant waiting periods for people trying to access community treatment if they're even able to find it. So with that, I will turn it over to the audience for some questions and comments. To the extent that you're able, we'd like you to be as concise as possible with your questions. And who wants to start us off? There's always one brave soul.
Hi, my name is Alex De Horos. I'm a resident of Rochester, New Hampshire, and I want to thank you for this film. I'm very moved by it. I knew Linda. She was my upstairs neighbor for a short while in Rochester at 2 Jackson Street, which is an old Victorian house. It's located behind the Subway restaurant on North Main Street in Rochester. So I lived there for 8 years, between 2000 and 2008. And I didn't know her well, but she lived directly above me. I was on the 1st floor, she was on the 2nd floor. And there was an incident once where she broke a window above me. I reported it to the landlord. I wish I had been a better friend to her. I was never mean or angry, but I was concerned about her and prayed for her. I myself have a mental illness. I have concerns about the system in New Hampshire. My long-term girlfriend, Shelley Lathrop, she had schizophrenia and was admitted as a patient in New Hampshire Hospital. Was given a conditional discharge, and she later died by suicide while in conditional discharge. So I had concerns. There was a passage in this movie where there were concerns about how Linda was discharged without any condition. I can state that in my personal experience, my best friend and girlfriend, she died by suicide with paranoid schizophrenia, even though she had a conditional discharge. And there were concerns about that, and I could go on about that, but I'm not going to go into great detail. But I want to just state that people with mental illness, it's a heartbreaking riddle. That the sense I had, this is going to sound crazy, the sense I had as a psychic medium was that Linda spoke to me from the other side and wanted me to know that one of the key elements of this, as I'm sure you can pick up, is the connection we had with friends. And that necessary network we have with friendship is very important to maintain mental health. And so I want to say thank you.
Thank you, Alex, and I'm very sorry for your loss, Michelle. And I'm wondering, Maggie, if you can start us off by what Alex was bringing up by explaining briefly about how conditional discharges work.
So I think that it's nice for us to think about, is there an answer for everyone or anyone for that matter? And conditional discharges have been very controversial over the years and seen by many patients as a punishment, as opposed to a way to treatment. And as a clinician, telling someone that, no, this is really for your protection and this is to make sure that you're well, and knowing that it fails sometimes is a hard sell. But it is a tool that we have and we continue to have in the state of New Hampshire that we should consider carefully for people who need that. And we should think about it not as a punishment, but we should understand it as a way to a healthier tomorrow for some people who need that kind of structure and who could benefit from that kind of treatment.
There's somebody behind you, go ahead.
Yes, Ed Moran. I'm wondering how much you have a spiritual dimension to this, which to me is probably we're relational people, beings, and it's an issue of sustained regular engagement with these individuals who have mental health issues. But I think the biochemistry and the brain chemistry is always there. And do we have any real sense of how efficacious these medications are without and with the emotional engagement and the guidance? Do we document outcomes? The gentleman just spoke about suicides. I have a cousin who died a few years ago, living in a house without heat, and became ill, didn't want to see anyone, and it was nothing that could be recovered, any engagement. He rejected it all. And where are we with the chemistry and the medications, and particularly with all the opioid stuff that's going on? This is compounding the complexity of solving this independent of sustained engagement, not knowing what we're going to. I think we're sort of somewhere in the middle of nowhere trying to solve this.
Thanks. Shelley, do you want to, as a clinician, maybe take a stab at that one?
Or as a family member?
As a family member or even a clinician, so the question that I'm hearing is the efficacy of our medications as they are today. How are they doing? Are they working? What is the combination of medication with engagement, with community? Do I have that correct, sir? Am I capturing that?
More than adequate.
Okay, wonderful. I know from a personal family member perspective, my brother is completely unmedicated at this point for his diagnosis, been unmedicated since 2003. So we've been going through symptomology since then. That's actually when I would say, yeah, since 2003, and he would be having symptoms in 1998. So about 5 years of symptoms before we actually had a diagnosis, which resulted from a stay in involuntary admission to a psychiatric hospital where we were provided what I felt like was a golden ticket, so to speak. Once we had the diagnosis, I felt like we had treatment options at that point, and we had no idea prior to that how to even approach anything. Imagine my feelings as a clinician at that point. I had a degree at that point already, and the feelings of guilt and shame and being unable to help my own sibling who I adore and not knowing what to do at that point. And so in him being unmedicated at this point with no outpatient services whatsoever, he refuses to take medication. When he was on medication, it was marginally effective, but being unconnected to outpatient treatment made it even less effective. I really think it's a dynamic that takes all resources depending upon the diagnosis at hand. I know for myself and him, paranoid schizophrenia is a very, very tough diagnosis. I face a lot of stigma from other people who think automatically that he's a very violent, vicious, paranoid person. He's actually incredibly gentle, and I work with the community around trying to help stand out that stigma with that. I really think a lot of resources need to be in play. I think we need community. I think we need all hands on deck for this epidemic, this mental health epidemic that we're in, I would call it. And I think medication does work. I think we live in also an amazing world with lots of medication options for folks. If there's not one thing that works, there's other things that are out there. And so I always say that we live in a really great place where we have options available, and a lot of treatment options as well. If it's not one type of therapy, then perhaps another type of therapy is going to work. Does that help answer your question, sir?
It helps.
It helps.
But it means that we're far from evidentiary saying we can measure outcomes based on medications, based on engagement, based on the illness, what the diagnosis of the illness is.
I think that if you're looking for scientific research data, I don't think any of us are prepared to give that to you, but it does exist in terms of positive outcomes from medication. I think that, John can speak to a different personal experience relative to your question about relationships and the effects that medication can have on that piece.
Yeah, I wanted to say, when I said earlier that all of us let Linda Bishop down, we didn't let her down personally, but we let her down. I've been traveling the state for the last 27 months. I've been to over 100 high schools. I've spoken to 60,000 people. I've hugged more kids in this state with wet eyes and cracky voices than I knew existed. Who tell me that they're ashamed of their mental illness, their parents are ashamed of it, their parents don't believe in mental health problems. A lot of people here tonight are in my generation, and my generation never talked about mental illness, never talked about it. Everyone in my town had perfect mental health, isn't that amazing? And every marriage in my town was happy. That's the bubble I grew up in, that's where the failure started. That's where the failure started. We always treated those people as one-offs. I don't know if you know this, but 1 in 5 adults in the United States, 1 in 5, will have a diagnosable mental illness in their lifetime. Half of all mental illness in our country arises by age 14, half.